Alright, so now that I've finished playing through the Super Thracia again for the Overview series, and of course in turn finished the Overview series, decided that I'm gonna do like a loose character rating. It's like I can't stress enough how loose this rating is gonna be. Like, I don't know the ins and outs of these characters, I just know like roughly how good they are based on their bases, their classes, their weapon ranks, all that jazz. Like, I know some characters, their bases just don't hold up for when they join. In some cases, their classes just suck. So that's pretty much what this is going to be. It's a very loose rating. Don't take it like to heart if you ever want to play the hack. I mean, wait, at how many stat boosters you get in the hack, you pretty much can use whoever you want, but it's just not going to be particularly easy. The 4 tiers are pretty much as they said. Staff bots, thieves, and flyers are just kind of their own like level of utility in this hack, especially flyers because of Dane's shield. Solid overall is pretty much the characters that can work without too much investment. Like they work pretty well. Need investment / alright are characters who are just like pretty alright without giving them extreme investment, or characters that are pretty bad without investment, but if you give them investment can be really good. Too much effort and not worthwhile are characters that are just not great even with investment. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We're gonna do this in order for recruitment. The listing for images is a bit out of order, but we'll start with the Leaf. He's the Lord. He's solid overall. I mean, it's a lot like Vanilla Thracia, where his ability to not get fatigued and the fact that he's just kind of pretty decent in general makes it so he's pretty good, as well as the fact that like, his Master Knight promotion in Super Thracia does a lot for him. Next up, Finn. The Brave Lance isn't a personal weapon for him anymore, but he's still good because of his joining time, his mount, and the fact that he can use lances even when dismounted in Super Thracia does a lot to help him. And statistically, he's good in general, so like, you know, he's just pretty, he's solid. You don't need to do a lot to make him good, and he's just pretty damn good. Alright, next up, Ivel. I'm gonna put Ivel in here based on how she is in the first few chapters, because she is unusable when she rejoins, even if you could get the Kaya staff normally. So in the first few chapters, I mean, yeah, she's basically top tier. She's invincible, of course, and she's necessary for things like capturing Augustus, but there's not much more to talk about there. It's pretty much just like in vanilla, except she's even worse when she rejoins. Orson. Orson, like Finn, the Bouge isn't a personal weapon anymore, but he's still pretty good in general. Like, Wrath is a very useful skill in this hack, and the fact that he comes with it like just by himself, and the fact that his stats are just pretty good in general does a lot for him. He's not mounted, which does kind of suck, but he's pretty good. Alright, next up are Halvin, Tanya, and Dagdar, who are just all going in the bottom tier because they're in the first few chapters, and Dagdar is useful in those first few chapters. Halvin and Tanya aren't really, but then they're just gone for the remainder of the hack. Like, they don't even rejoin like Ivel does. And I suppose, I mean, you could argue that I should put Ivel down here as well, but I mean, at least she does rejoin, and she is more useful than any of them are in the early chapters. And then we have Marty. Marty is an interesting case. He's going to be our first in the need investment tier in that his speed is god-awful. He has like a 5% growth, but his innate bravery skill does a lot for him, and as well as like his classes. His tier 3 class is Berserker, which has a very high base speed. So between that and the amount of stat boosters you get in this hack, you can actually make it so his speed is pretty good. And at that point, he can quad with whatever you want him to. He can have like having the brave effect of that hammer is really useful in certain chapters. And after that's Jan. Jan's probably the best archer in the game other than Faval, just because she actually is surprisingly good statistically, and she comes with Wrath, which means that if you can get her injured, she can start doing a lot of crits without getting retaliated. But like, she's not that good. She's still an archer at the end of the day, and that's After that's Lithus. Lithus is of course going to go in the thief tier just because he's a thief. There's really not much more to talk about him. He has pretty much the same utility he does in vanilla. Sophia, she's probably the best of the staff bots in this hack just because the Hamurn is still a personal staff and she joins so early, but she's pretty good in general. Brighton, I'm probably going to Brighton in the not worthwhile, because he's not great in the long run. He's useful in the Master Arc. Actually, no, we're going to put Brighton in need investment / alright. He's pretty useful in the Master Arc, and you kind of can keep him going, but he's not great. Matcha's pretty bad. We're going to could put her in too much effort now that we're off. She's not even that good in the Master Arc. So, she just doesn't really even hold up after that. Fergus. Solid overall. He doesn't have 5 Pursuit critical anymore. All the characters who had 5 Pursuit crit only have like 2 or 3 in Super Thracia. But he's still pretty good. His stats are fine, he's still mounted, and he actually gains axes in this, and that's when he's mounted and dismounted. Notably, I alluded to this in the actual series, but he can use the Nagling. He's one of the 3 people who can. Him, Leaf, and Miranda can use the niggling, and that helps. After that, Karen, she's a flyer. Flyers, I mean, of course, aside from standard flyer utility, the tier 3 flyers in this hack are just in like a league of their own with how useful they are because of how Dane's shield is broken. Just, like, once you get them to level 35 and you promote them to tier 3, they're so useful. Like, you can have them choke points that would kill anyone else, you can have them carry people around at no risk. It's so useful for enemies to just not attack them. I mean, of course, it is a glitch, and if there's ever a version that patches that glitch, then their utility is going to be a bit more questionable, so especially for Edda and Misha, but as it is, very good. Lara. I mean, she's another thief. She's the worst of the thieves as far as being a thief goes, but she turns into a dancer. It's a bit more hidden than it is in vanilla, given that I didn't know about it for a whole, 2 playthroughs until someone pointed it out in the comments. But a dancer is still very useful, but, I mean, the main thing is that, especially in the late game, there's so many long-range stuff, enemies in this. She can die really easily, but she's still a dancer. At the end of the day, dancer utility is just so good. Dawson. No. He's useful in the Master arc just because he is pretty durable for that point, but that's it. He's still an Armor Knight at the end of the day. He's still an Armor Knight. Those kinda suck. Asvel, great. The Graph Cal isn't personal anymore, but he is still just a fantastic combat unit, and he gets staves on promotion still, so he's just real good. Nana, staff bot, mounted, standard fare. Titania, she's not great, but she's also not awful, so we're just gonna put her in the alright tier. She's pretty frail for what you would expect from an Axe Knight, but she's also on the kind of the faster end, so she could just she's really just the epitome of alright. Shiva, I mean, he's a pretty decent combat unit. He has Saul, which I guess is kind of useful, but not that useful, but he's not really bad. Katarina's an interesting case. Her bases are not great, but she has the 20 action stars and the Regenerator, which is her promotion. It's a tier 3 class, but it instantly bumps her defenses up to 40-40. Her main issue really is her speed, and that it's not great, but even then, that's not that hard to patch up in this hack. And her weapon ranks. I mean, her weapon ranks, you pretty much have to decide what you want to do with her as soon as you get her, because she has E rank and everything at base, and then you have to pretty much spend the entire hack ranking her up. I mean, you can pretty much rank up 2 things with how much stuff you have to fight in this hack, but it takes a while. Sita, she's a flyer, of course, and actually, between the 4 flyers, I feel like she's probably my favorite, but her and Karen are very, very similar at the end of the day. Alright, Clarice, no. Her bases are atrocious. She's an archer. I mean, she has Luna, cool. Doesn't really matter. A lot of dangerous enemies in this hack have Nihil anyway. She's really not great. Selfina, also, her bases are actually not that bad, but she's just not anything special. And she's not great in general. Alfred, I mean, Alfred, he's pretty average. There's not much to comment on for him. It's kind of same with Olwen. Her niche in Vanilla was the Dire Thunder, but that's not personal anymore, so she's just kind of a Mage Knight now, and she's alright. Marita, she goes and needs investment. Her bases are trash, and her growths are... I compared her growths between the Vanilla game and Super Thracia. In Super Thracia, her, durability is better, but her offenses are worse. But she still has the Marita sword, which is really good, and makes it so that she's a pretty good boss killer, especially with Luna. Salem, staff bot, yeah, whatever. Patty, thief. Patty gets the added bonus of recruiting Faval, but I mean, you probably shouldn't take too much for that. Garrick, Boyce. Once again, he's alright. He's really not anything special, but he's not, a pain to use. Kind of same with Glade. A lot of the characters who go in the alright tier, I don't have much to talk about, because they're just kind of alright. Soth. Soth's probably, he is the best thief because of he's a thief and a staff bot. And I mentioned this in Chapter 14, but you can take advantage of the fact that he's a staff bot to rig Constitution level ups, which can make him even better of a thief. Edda, I mean, she's still a flyer, even if her bases are god-awful and it's a pain to level her up. Lucius, he's a staff bot with the added benefit of having Paragon. Lenoan, staff bot, yeah, whatever. Faval. He gets to go in solid overall. I mean, his bases aren't bad, and the U-Fel is really good, but he is an archer. Why did I put Katarina's not supposed to be there? You need to keep in mind that he is an archer. And that's always going to be an issue he has. He also has Adept, which helps. His main thing is the fact that the U-Fel makes him a really good boss killer. He's not too good otherwise. but just that level of utility, especially in this hack, makes it so I would put him in solid overall. Sarah, staff bot, of course. Lawson? I didn't I kind of said that he was just kind of like, he's alright, and I stand by that, he's alright. He actually has pretty decent bases for his join time, which is surprising for this hack. Something I didn't comment on is that his growths are 66% in everything except magic and movement, and I think con, which are 6%. So, like, looking at his growths, it's just a bunch of 6s, which I don't know why it's like that. It is. Shroff, staff bot, yeah, whatever. Amalda! Amalda's going and needs investment earned alright, because she, in becoming a mage knight in this hack, she lost staves, which is kind of her main thing in vanilla. So yeah, she's definitely worse off than she was in vanilla, but she's not bad. Her stats are still pretty alright. Burger King is probably going to be the only armored unit I put in needs investment / alright, because his stats are just better and he has better skills than the other armor knights, but you need to keep in mind, he's still an armor knight. He's not great. Miranda, no, she is pretty much as bad as she is in vanilla. La Rochelle, staff bot, yeah, whatever. Xavier's god-awful in this hack. I mean, he's got good starting, like, strength, defense, and health, but everything else about him just doesn't stand up to this hack. Misha, another flyer. Although she is pre-promoted, which actually makes her harder to get to tier 3 than, like, the other ones. Galzus, I mean, his bases are alright. He needs a bit of investment to be able to keep up later on, but he's not that bad. Ares definitely goes in this tier because his bases are atrocious for when he joins, but if you can invest into him, the Mistleton makes it so that he's still very capable. Sedum, I'm gonna put Sedum alright. He, I commented on this in the actual Chapter 24 video, but his bases are not great. His 32 base speed is, he really just has to be using the Forcetti, otherwise he gets doubled and dies. But when he is using the Forcetti, he's pretty good, so we're gonna put him here. Ishtar is... It sucks, but she's pretty bad, just straight up. Her bases aren't great. The Mjolnir... I mean, it's a powerful weapon, yeah, sure, but it doesn't do much for her. So she's honestly pretty bad. And then Julius is, like, a weird case. Like, his bases are really good. Like, to the point where I actually kind of almost want to put him in solid overall, but then there's also that, like, 0 movement glitch. He's gonna go in one of these tiers. The 0 movement glitch, if that happens, I don't even know if it's a glitch, I assume it is. That strikes me as something that would be a glitch. I feel like he should have actual movement. If the 0 movement glitch is intended, then he's down here. If it's not, I'd put him in one of these 2 tiers just because his bases are really good. Actually, I'm gonna put him here. If he had A rank Dark, I think I'd probably put him in solid overall. Just because that would allow him to use things like the Upheaval, which would be real nice, but instead he has A rank Fire, which is like, whatever. Yeah, that's, like I said, very rough tiering, and really didn't go that into depth with anything. But this is just like kind of a rough kind of overview of, as to what the deal is with each character. Roughly how good they are. I mean, most of them are pretty just alright. There's very few characters that are just not worth using. Like, Dawson and Clarice are straight up not worth using. Miranda, she has a good promotion. So I guess if you can get her there, she's pretty alright. Xavier, maybe. Ishtar joins really late, and her bases are just not great. So, I mean, no, not really. She just kind of dies if you try to use her. Sophiana's probably not worth using. Matcha, you probably could make work, but I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. And then these 3 you literally can't make work, given that they up and die on you. And then, like I said, the alright tier are a bunch of characters. I mean, you pretty much should use them if you're playing through the hack, just because you want to have a lot of units leveled up. And then, like, the solid overall units are units that I would recommend fielding pretty much whenever you can, unless they're fatigued or whatever. And then, of course, you know, staff bots, thieves, and flyers. Standard fare for staff bots and thieves, that's just kind of the nature of Thracia. And then flyers are already good for the utility, but the Dane's Shield just makes them even more useful than ever in this hack. So, yeah, that's it. I think with this, the series is officially over. If there's anything else major that I missed, and someone points it out to me, I'll probably redo whatever that chapter is, but I don't know what would cause that, honestly, given that the Lara Dancer thing's been sorted out. So that's probably going to be it for this series. I don't want to touch this hack ever again. I don't know if I'm going to do another series. I might. Maybe put suggestions in the comments, I don't know. Maybe it'll be another 4 years until I do another series on a whim. But yeah, no, that's it for now. Oh, that's just it.